Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the sort of manner that you use when doing any sort of partial rep in order to do so safely. The mechanisms that you use to stop the weight at the bottom actually has an enormous impact on injury rates, recovery, everything else. And this is actually something that pretty much every powerlifter on earth knows, but it seems like YouTube fitness lately, the whole YouTube fitness community doesn't know this stuff, which shocks me because literally this is known in every single powerlifting gym that you go into. This is universally taught, universally understood among guys who lift heavy. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And I've realized that I do need to go into this a little more, and actually, I'm going to be honest, this is a long-term marketing strategy for me. And the reason I say that, I've already said that people like Strap-on Destiny are absolutely going to get hurt. There's almost 100% chance he's going to get a debilitating injury with the way he trains, and then all of his subscribers are going to come over to me because I told them ahead of time this is going to happen. The problem I have is that if I sit around and wait for that to happen, this person is going to injure a large number of his subscribers as well. And when they get hurt from doing this stuff incorrectly, they are no longer going to train. I'm not going to get them as subscribers. So when they get knocked out of the game, I'm losing all those potential subscribers. So for me to tell this now, before all these people get hurt, maybe they'll stop and listen. All the fanboys of these different guys promoting these heavy partials, maybe they're going to stop and listen. And if they stop and they at least wait and don't do any more of this and wait till their idols and heroes get hurt, then they'll realize I was right. And maybe some of them won't get injured. And if they do that, then I'm going to be able to keep those people. Now, some people will say, well, you know, why are you going to say this? Because then guys like Strap-on Destiny will listen and they'll change what they're doing. And they won't get hurt. And then you lose. No, I don't, because they won't quit. They're too egotistical to admit they actually don't know what they're talking about. They're too egotistical to publicly admit they're wrong and are going to get hurt. And so accordingly, I don't have to worry about that. It's not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. They're just not smart enough or humble enough to do that. And I've admitted in cases where I was wrong about stuff and made videos saying, hey, I was wrong. Now, that being said, what do I mean about the way that you stop the bar? You guys watch powerlifters train? Now, equipped powerlifters do a lot of partials. If you're a raw lifter, I'm going to recommend that you avoid partials unless you have a very, very legitimate reason to do so. I don't recommend doing partials. In fact, for guys who are chasing aesthetics, I would say don't even do partials for an aesthetic body part. Go isolate the muscle. In other words, don't do rack pulls for your traps. Do some shrugs. Shrugs are a time-proven method of blowing your traps up. It's worked forever. It's a really easy way to do it if they're lagging for whatever reason. But the way that you stop the bar matters. How do guys do partials in powerlifting gyms? You guys ever watch? Just go watch some of them. There's powerlifting only channels up there. Watch how they train. How do they do partials? Do they use partials in a deadlift, in a rack? Do they do presses in a rack very often for half reps? Do you see that very often? No. There's a reason you don't see it. You don't see that at all. That's because powerlifters who lift heavy for years on end have learned that when they use racks to do partials and the steel hits the steel and it's hitting it further in so it takes the whip out of the bar, takes the bend out of the bar quicker. So you lose some of that whip in the bar that helps bring down the jarring, and you're hitting steel on steel. They found that this injures joints over time. Meaning people who do tons of rack pulls tend to herniate discs. They tend to damage their wrists and stuff from the heavy rack pulls. Because not only are you not getting the natural whip in the bar because the weight has been moved further in where it sits on the pins, it changes that, but more importantly, it is steel hitting steel while you're still holding onto it hard on each rep. All right, and because you're doing it in a rack, you can't let it drop as fast, and oftentimes they're strapped to it. They're still stuck to it when it comes down and hits. All right, that causes herniations in discs. All right, particularly with these weights that are heavier than your deadlift max, which is what people are oftentimes doing. But even with lighter weights, that has been known to injure people. Same thing on the bench press. If you do that, people notice their shoulders, their elbows, and their wrists start to get really, really inflamed really quickly. It leads to impact on the joints that wouldn't be there if you were just lifting the weight smoothly. So in powerlifting gyms and powerlifting circles, what you see is a soft touch method. All right. What do guys do for deadlift partials? They deadlift off blocks. They call them block pulls. No one does rack pulls in powerlifting gyms. If they do, it's only with really light weight and it's below the knee rack pulls. Okay, if they do them at all, that's usually what you see. Most pulls that are done with a partial rep are done on blocks, and you have blocks that you can stack up to the height that you want that work just like a rack, but you have wooden blocks usually with rubber on top that go under the plates, and the plates hit them, and it gives you the normal bounce the bar would have at the bottom. It's hitting something softer instead of steel while you're stuck holding onto it. It gives a soft touch. It doesn't cause that same impact on the joints with a really heavy weight. It doesn't cause that same impact. It is that impact that destroys joints. What do they do for bench press? Boards. They use board presses. Nobody uses racks for this stuff. Not in the powerlifting world. Not anyone who's strong. They use board presses. And another person holds the boards. Now there are devices out there that you can use to strap boards to your own chest that are actually pretty good. I've tried one in the UK before. Those are out there, but usually you have someone holding the boards. They've got boards with a handle. They have 1 board, 2 board, 3 boards, so that you get the different heights for different partials, and someone holds a handle on the board and puts it on your chest. And you touch down to the wooden board, which is a soft touch, and then press, right? That's what they do. And I've even seen some people do something called, it's a little more ghetto, it's called a carpet press. Even a softer touch. You roll up carpet, a big roll of carpet, and lay it on the person's chest. Comes down, and you can cut 4 or 5 inches out of the range of motion depending on what you're doing. You hit that roll of carpet and press off of it. It's called a carpet press. All right, carpet presses, board presses, block pulls. These are the tools of elite equipped powerlifters who choose to do heavy partial work. This saves their joints. Powerlifters learned decades ago that hitting steel on steel using racks to do partials, especially with partials that are heavier than your raw maxes, it destroys joints. It causes injuries. It slows down recovery. It hurts people. All right? It hurts people. And it causes all sorts of injuries you wouldn't expect. But definitely the rack pulls. And it's just scary how many people buy into this and they don't go do some basic research. They don't go research at all. They will listen to 1 or 2 YouTubers who will talk to them about doing partial reps for whatever reason. They've been convinced to do them even though they're not an equipped powerlifter. And they do them for their own reasons. And they don't even go look to see how any experts out there or champions or coaches have people do partials at all. Go look around. No one who is a strong lifter does these rack lockouts. All right, they don't do that even for their partial work. A few do, but they're very, very rare. And you know what? I'd be curious to see how many of the guys who are doing it now at all stay injury free. Because it does. If you think about what that does to your back and everything else, it can cause disc herniations. It's putting, again, a jarring force with a heavy weight on joints, on discs in your back that doesn't need to be there. You want a soft touch with partials. All right, you want a soft touch, and blocks give you that because you have your normal whip in the bar, and then when the bar comes down, you have that full whip in the bar to start taking up the slack all the way from the ends, and it's hitting wood and rubber, not steel. So, I mean, you have 2 different pathways through which it is reducing the shock of hitting the bottom. It definitely reduces the shock. So, again, it's kind of scary how many people buy into stuff like this and they can't even bother to do some basic research. You know, it's really scary. And I guess one way to look at it, I mean, I guess I could go ahead and be a dick. I'll be a dick here. Maybe that's Darwinism at work. It's stuff like this out there that maybe is how we can weed the stupidest people out of the lifting community. That is one way to look at it, and I guess that's a good way to do it because that will do it. That will do it eventually, but you know what? I don't like that idea because it's usually a lot of young, impressionable guys who see something that looks cool. They see something that looks good and they try it and they don't fully understand the risk. And so we could say that's stupid, but you know what? All of us did stupid stuff when we were young. And I hate to think that some of these guys who are out here doing something to better themselves and improve themselves are going to make a simple mistake like that out of ignorance. And they might actually be intelligent young men who are capable of thinking, but just because of their age and their being impressionable at that age, they try something like this while trying to improve themselves and end up getting a lifelong injury that takes them out of the gym, makes them unable to deadlift, squat, anything like that for the rest of their life. Worst case, puts them in a wheelchair. You know, I think that's kind of a travesty if that happens. I mean, I could kind of see the other point that some people make that, well, it would just weed the stupid out. But maybe they're not stupid. Maybe it's just young guys who are impressionable and they don't know any better. They're ignorant. They're not stupid. And there's an enormous difference between being ignorant and being stupid. And this is a case of just ignorance and the blind leading the blind. But, you know, it is really scary that so much of this gets promoted and no one else is out here saying, hey, all this stuff is dangerous. This is stupid. You're going to get hurt. Even powerlifters who do partials don't do this. They know this is stupid. Powerlifters have known this for decades, and they've found workarounds around this stuff because they know you get hurt doing it. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.